Are we waiting for Jason?
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. Recently, I had a new sponsor of my shows in Copper Road Resources. CRD is their stock symbol on the venture market. And why I invited them is I'm very bullish on copper. But what I have a harder time doing is finding a lot of good copper exploration stories out there. So when Copper Road came to my attention, I immediately saw some things that sparked my interest. They've got these breccia pipes with, in some cases, very high grades of copper and the potential for porphyry underneath them. And this is right up my alley because this company only has a $3.82 million valuation. And I think they've got a great project. Thank you very much for joining me today, John and Matt.
Thanks for having us, Allan. Thanks for your time.
No problem. Here, so, John, you're the CEO, the boss, as Matt calls you. And why don't you give us an overview of the CRD story?
No, certainly. I was sourced to come in fall of 2020 to look at this project. They had about 18,000 hectares, and that the Copper Corp mine also. We added the Tri-Bag mine in the East Breccia, and that's what we drilled on last year, returning some decent intersections from surface. 100 meters of 0.32. Certainly not going to blow the world open on that, but there's a lot of potential there. And we'd like to get back into this property in the Tri-Bag zone and the JR zone also this year. They're approximately 10 kilometers apart. The Tri-Bag mine was one of Teck's first mines they operated back from 66 to 72. And the Copper Corp mine in the southwest was run by Pat Sheridan Sr., obviously a legendary character in the mining industry here in Canada. In the center of this thing, the JR zone has had very limited drilling. Phelps Dodge was in there back in the 60s. Noranda's also been in that area. Jogren mines in the early 60s. Obviously, these guys are looking for, billion-ton deposits of 1% copper. That very well may not be there on one location. But the fact that they had the hallmarks to look at this property, Antofagasta up in 2013, looking at the Richards Breccia, we really feel it's a historical consolidation of the district. There was always fragmented land ownership up there. The Copper Corp mine, the Tri-Bag mines are both close to staking from 72 until 2002 and 72 to 2008 respectively. And we really feel a consolidation of this district, near surface copper, 20K from a highway in Ontario, with refining capabilities in Sudbury and Timmins. We're pretty excited about this.
And that's in the Batchewana Bay area.
That's correct. It's about 80K north of Sault Ste. Marie.
One of this that stands out to me is that Richards breccia pipe. Some very handsome grades, right around 1% copper or more. And I don't think the market really understands how important breccia pipes can be in copper. I think a lot of times they're focused on porphyries, which you guys have the potential of, but those breccia pipes can be important mines as well, right, Matt?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a kind of an exciting opportunity for Copper Road because, as John said, it's the first time that the entire district from one end to the other, which has copper showings all through it, has been under one company. So we have the luxury of kind of sitting back and taking the bigger picture, perhaps. And we've been looking at applying different exploration techniques maybe than they did in the past. Also compiling all the old data, but taking a global view of the district and seeing where these better targets can be. And I mean, we know we have porphyry mineralization there. The Jogren is a porphyry. It's been verified, researched by well-known economic geologists like Jeremy Richards, Ed Spooner, Dick Silito, seen it. So we know we have the makings there. We have all the right ingredients, and we just need to sort of put all the data together and pick the best targets. But we're going to focus on Jogren Richards for now because we know we have good high-grade breccia mineralization at Richards. And we have significant intervals of porphyry hosted mineralization at Jogren, yeah.
And the Richards Breccia, that I learned a long time ago to one of my mentors in geology always told me, watch the where the drills are, and also the distribution of the mineral inside of those drilling. And there's three drill holes into that Richards breccia that are, you know, multi tens of meters of right around 1 to over 1% copper. You know, that gets my attention right away, Matt.
Yeah, no, for sure, and that, you know, that would be similar to what the grades they were mining out of the Tribag mine Tech in the early days. So, you know, we know those grades are achievable. We've got them in drill hole at Richards, and we actually think Richards now. We've been recovering some of the old data, and there's just a small patch of gradient IP there, and we actually think those drill hole intercepts are on just on the north edge of a larger breccia pipe that extends to the south off the survey, and we can see another pipe potentially just nearby that's completely untested. So, and we also know historically that there are other breccia pipe occurrences across the property. So we're eager to put all those on the map and to start doing some more advanced exploration on them. Yeah.
And there's some important mines out there that are breccia pipes that with similar type of intersections and grades.
Yeah, and in fact, you know, Jim Franklin, actually, another well-known geoscientist, Jim Franklin, looked at this area for Origin Resources, one of the old operators, and he compares it favorably to some other rift-related porphyry intrusive camps. You know, like the more alkaline style, like Montana, Colorado. Anyway, and you know, these usually have some pretty good breccia hosted high grade mineralization associated with them. So, you know, if you've got a larger porphyry driving this, and it's got some, you know, sort of typical these days porphyry grade copper and moly in them, and then you've got these high grade pipes to kind of supplement that to make one overall sort of district. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
pretty exciting in that way.
That's pretty much the story of what you guys, because you've got widespread copper mineralization throughout the property, and then you've got these breccia occurrences, porphyry occurrences, and you just really need to roll your sleeves up and do some modern technology and exploration.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's part of what we're doing. We're getting to all the historical data together, especially geochemistry. We've supplemented that with some more recent sampling last summer, and starting to look at all the various targets. I forgot where you were going with that question. Sorry.
Oh, the overall view of the widespread copper mineralization throughout the property, the historical mining, the fact that you've got breccia pipes and porphyries, hell of a good target area. Target rich.
Yeah, target rich, and you know, looking at it, even past operators noticed these sort of particular ring fault patterns that underlie that peninsula, which we think is a signature of a larger sort of mother intrusion poking up that's feeding basically. And we know even the copper core veins, the breccias, the porphyry, they're all related to the same system, and it's being driven by some large magmatic, you know, thermal driver, and that's basically created these copper showings across the, you know, the peninsula for 30 kilometers, and underlying that perhaps even a sort of a grobinal northwest or northeast trending grobinal feature that's sort of more controlling where those porphyries and breccias are coming up. That's extending off the mid-continent rift out of Lake Superior. So so pretty exciting once we start putting all this together and can start seeing the forest for the trees, I guess. Yeah.
And just for the non-geologist out there, breccia pipes are like broken up rock that allows the fluids a path of least resistance. But what causes that breaking of the rock and the mineralization and all the mineralization around there and the porphyries and the past mining is suggestive of a big, powerful mineralizing system.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, these breccias they're sometimes driven by hydrostatic pressure, so they break their own rock. or they're following pre-existing structural conduits, as I said, like the ring faults and the graben edges and things like that. But generate that magmatic fluid to overcome the lithostatic pressure of the rock and shatter it up is you've got a pretty powerful system to do that. And typically porphyry, well, not typically, but some that have breccia pipes, the upper level porphyry intrusive then will have a ring of breccia pipes around them, often a bit higher grade. So that really supplements the overall potential resource of that system for sure. Yeah.
So it gives you options. You could focus on the porphyries, you could focus on the breccia, and then you could focus on the deep source that pumped all this into there.
Yeah, and in some cases not so deep. At Jogren, it's right at surface. It comes to surface. It's a porphyry, right? And then the Richards is about 1 kilometer away, and we think that roots in that Jogren porphyry that the latest MMI Recce geochem we did shows us a much bigger footprint to the copper and moly in that area, and so that the Richards, is coming up from that shallow Jogren porphyry that's sitting underneath there. At least that's what we assume right now. We got to drill test that, obviously, but the indications from the MMI geochemistry we've done is pretty encouraging. It's a much bigger area of mineralization than most people thought before. And as John mentioned, older operators that were in there, if they got 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 copper, they weren't all that excited. So yeah.
Well, the price of copper was a lot different than
if it was $1 a pound or whatever, it used to be back in the day. That just wouldn't make it. But it's a different world today. And I mean, for the average of the old Jogren drill holes, I think those are about 0.2 copper and 0.03 something moly, and copper equivalent. That's with the price of moly today, that's over 0.4 copper percent. So copper equivalent. So you've already demonstrated some economic grades, essentially. I'll say that with a caveat, but potentially economic grades in what we know now. So just a matter of getting the drills out and expanding the footprint of that mineralization. Yeah.
So that will be the immediate attention, that Jogren and that Richards corridor there that are a couple kilometers apart.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they're 1 kilometer apart. Sorry. Yeah.
Kilometer. Okay. And then you've got, and that's sort of on the northeast side of the claims, right?
Sort of central, really, central and a bit to the northwest. But if you go northeast, then you're up at the Tribag Breccia complexes. And then coming back down towards the southwest, you're in Jogren Richards. And then we have other known porphyry targets further even to the southwest towards the Copper Corp mine, but it's just early days on those, so we're still putting together the data for that. But we have some drill indicated, again, drilling from the 50s and 60s. They drilled a handful of holes and hit some interesting stuff, and then walked away. At that time it just wasn't economic. So.
Well, as you're explaining all that, Matt, not only does it tell me that you've got some immediate exciting stuff, but the bigger picture is you've probably got a very powerful mineralizing system there to get the truth machine after to figure out.
Yeah, no, I mean, potentially, if we're right in our assumptions and we're lucky with the drill, then we could end up with having multiple mineralized centers across that camp. So it's certainly, the system is capable of generating that. Yeah, as we can see.
Like I said earlier, it's not easy to find a lot of good copper exploration stories out there, which I think is part of the argument for to be bullish on copper. But I think you got something to sink your teeth into here, Matt.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, we're pretty excited about testing a lot of these targets. Just tough in the markets, as you know, these days. So see if we can see if we can get the funding to get the drill turning. Yeah, for sure.
Which brings John onto the picture. Where are things going in that regard to get the drilling underway, John?
No, we're certainly out, doing some marketing right now, and hopefully we're better explorers than marketers with a, a $3.5 million market cap. Um, certainly there's flow through funding available. Initial feedback we're sort of getting is, look, you're too small, you're too small. But the project, no, we love the project, but your market cap's too small. So we're certainly looking for value guys that appreciate a reasonable share structure in a large project. So we're certainly making some calls here and lots of meetings here over the next couple of weeks. A driller on standby, ready to go. So it's not like we raise funding. We're drilling 8 months from now. We could be drilling in late June through the summer. So, obviously don't want to do something too dilutive here. We have a pretty good shareholder base. Our top 10 shareholders would own 30%. The top 30 would own some 60%. Some good names in there. Pat Sheridan Jr., who I worked for many years in Guyana Goldfields. Rob Cudney, who financed FNX Quadra, Guyana Goldfields, Gold Eagle. Ingrid Hibbert out of Pelangio. Jason Livingston owns 4 million shares personally at Castlewood Capital. So we have some very good names in here, but obviously we have to get some new shareholders in here and fill up the treasury again.
Well, with the quality of this project, and there's a lot of flow through money out there, and also there's incentives. The government's actually trying to create some incentives for critical metals, and there can't be more of a critical metal than copper.
No, we fully agree. Canada's, we have jurisdiction. I think the big issue here is, I think these academics and government personnel are somewhat naive on where this copper is coming from. And if you look across North America, Pebble's been canceled. Resolution's some 25 years in, it hasn't been built yet. Twin Metals, Antofagasta's project in northern Michigan's been canceled. KSM's 30 years in, hasn't been built yet. So I think there's a lot of attention we'll have to pay to see what happens with Galore Creek, with Newmont, and perhaps Western Copper too, see how these more advanced explorers are moving along. We have a very good First Nations relationship down there. We went in and absolutely carpet bombed this area with drill pads. Their big concern was, guys, how are you going to manage this? Are you trenching this? Are you clear cutting? We said, no, look, we have to expedite path to discovery. We need that mobility in these targets. And our drilling last year, Mitchell Lake target, which is just north of the old Tribag mine, where the north side permitted, but not the south side, and couldn't drill it. So our theory was, let's go in and drill pad as much as possible. And, really the concerns from the First Nations, obviously the biggest mistake we can make here is an environmental, a health and safety incident, or a cultural invasion of something we didn't handle properly. So we're developing a very robust early stage environmental management plan, emergency management plan, all these in place before we start drilling. And the First Nations are very happy about this, to have this documented. Of course, everybody's subject to the same regulations. Well, let's just codify it and put it into, actual policies that we can adhere to. So they're very happy about this. Batchewana, it's obviously right in their backyard, and they're very eager looking for a deposit down there. Sault Ste. Marie is somewhat depressed economically. And, obviously a mine is, 10 years minimum down the road here. But there's lots of work in the meantime as we develop and move forward.
Absolutely. Well, you brought up a couple important things there for me. One is that, the aspirations of many politicians and consumers is that, they want the things that need copper, but they haven't been as helpful as they could be to get the copper out of the ground to make those aspirations reality.
Indeed. And if we're looking to rewire the world for ESG purposes, I would think we need ESG copper.
Absolutely.
And, some of these studies, Princeton done a fantastic study in this net zero America. How do we move this thing forward? It's a $2 trillion upgrade. In their draft report, and 380 pages, they had one page as a bottlenecks of potential concerns, and one bullet point of building the EPC and supply chain capacities needed to support the deployment rate. In the final study, again, 380 pages, one page of potential bottlenecks, they changed that to failure to deploy the physical assets quickly enough. Well, where are you getting them from? You have a $2 trillion upgrade. You don't have any mines coming online in North America. Where's this copper coming from? And where is, how are you building these supply chain capacities?
Even the mines in South America, they're getting very ancient. They've been high graded and deep, and You know, you can't rely on those, and that's why the supply chain is so tight. I remember times in my career when the warehouses would host weeks or months worth of daily supply. Now they're down to days, a day or two, which I think
And a lot of these company or projects happening, the offtake agreements are already in place. So, you need new mines, and that, supply is coming from Grasberg expansion, Escondida expansion, Kamoa-Kakula ramping up. But new projects coming online are pretty scarce.
absolutely. And I really think that the most important part of that supply chain is getting more exploration done. So that's why I'm always on the hunt for good exploration stories, John, but finding them is hard. And I'm looking every day.
We find they're the same from, high-level fund managers looking for advanced projects. Cisco, the same thing. They have a $250 million fund, and these guys want near-stage production. It's just not out there.
Right, right. Well, you got to put the holes in the ground before you find to put the big hole in the ground.
Oh, indeed.
So, well, I'm really glad you guys came on the show, and that one of your shareholders made me aware of you guys, and he's a pretty big shareholder, and I'm really glad he did, because like I said, I'm very bullish on copper, but finding good copper stories in the exploration space is very difficult, and I think you guys are onto something really serious here in Ontario.
Yeah, we would agree. We're pretty excited. Two past producers in the property, they're 30 kilometers apart. They're not sister deposits. Some very interesting geology in the middle we'd like to get into this summer.
Sounds like a hell of a plan. Let me close it off, guys, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Allan. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Allan. Yep, appreciate it very much. Thanks.
So there you go, folks. In Copper Road, you've got CRD is the symbol, and you've got a company here that's in a very good location, has widespread copper mineralization, historic copper mining, recent success with the drilling, several Breccia pipes and Porphyry, and a big potential mineralizing system, and yet the company only has a $3.82 million valuation. As copper goes up, I think more and more generalist investors are going to start coming to the junior mining space, and they're not going to find a very big menu to look at for copper exploration stories. And I think that this company, Copper Road, has a great story and really underappreciated, and I'm going to try my best to get some more attention on the company, and we'll keep doing these interviews. Thank you very much again, guys.
It's appreciated, Allan. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Have a great weekend.
We'll see you soon. And as always, the shows are for information purposes only. Speak with your financial advisors. Do your homework. I wrote a report on them, welcoming them to my sponsorship program, and I highlighted some of the key information that we talked about today. You can find that on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.